Dave Heller joins us this morning. He's a senior.
He just hung up.
He just hung up. I'm getting out of here. I'm getting some distance here. Senior Vice President of Safety and Government Affairs for the Truckload Carriers Association. Hey, Dave, welcome to your first appearance. Hopefully not the last after all this communist kind of cell conversation on Nemo Nation. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. That's a great introduction.
What's going on? What's happening in your world?
Oh, gosh, if I could find a break and celebrate the summer somehow, it'd be fantastic, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Seems like we're dealing with anything and everything.
Well, you have come up with an idea here that looks like it might be the tiebreaker in terms of getting rid of something and putting something in place for the future. And what I'm talking about getting rid of is the excise tax on the new trucks that can run 20 now. They're saying $25,000. The World War I tax that everybody says, yeah, we need to get rid of that, but where's the money coming from? There's another spoonful of alphabet soup that you're going to drop on us right now. GBUF. What in the world does GBUF stand for?
Well, we're calling that the phrase that pays, so to speak. So,
all right.
This is.
I wish that was my job, by the way. I should have come up with that.
This is short for gallons-based user fee.
Okay, gallons-based user fee. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And this is an opportunity to increase the appetite for certainly making sure the Highway Trust Fund is fully funded to the levels that it needs to get funded at. It's no secret, and you know this as well as I do, that the federal fuel tax has not been increased since 1993, and we're collecting 1993 dollars but paying 2025 pricing, which that recipe does not amount to any amount of longevity in terms of success rate for the Highway Trust Fund. But we know our professional truck drivers need things like parking, first-class infrastructure, roads and bridges to be built in the manner in which they need to be built at. So truly rebranding this and calling it a user fee can make it more palatable on Capitol Hill, because that's truly what it is. It's a user fee. You drive a mile, you put a gallon of gas in your car or your truck, and certainly you need to pay for that. And then couple that with the registration fee of $250 for electric vehicles and $100 for hybrid vehicles, and you've got yourself a fully funded highway trust fund in a manner that this country desperately needs.
Yeah, and that, Dave, by the way, is such a crucial thing, because anybody who is on the side that you guys are on, and by the way, I'm going to, full disclosure, I'm in complete, I don't usually editorialize, I'm in complete agreement. There is a lack of shared sacrifice when it comes to the Highway Trust Fund and when it comes to kind of funding the roads and infrastructure in this country. A lot of people like using it to get to work, not understanding that it was built for military transport and the overall kind of movement of goods and services, the very people that you represent. You guys are paying, hundreds of percent more in regards to like all the fees that kind of get added in to fund that trust fund. What you're asking for here essentially is everybody that actually gets to share in the bounty that is our interstate system has to pay for it. Is that it? Is the most basic, simple idea?
And that's perfect. You sum it up in a nutshell, without a doubt. And that's what it stands for, right? Anybody that uses the roads needs to pay to use the roads. And let's disregard tolling. Let's take that out of the equation, but let's recognize the need that if you are going to be putting miles on the road, there is opportunity and a need to pay for those miles, because roads don't last forever. Bridges don't last forever. There is wear and tear that goes on every day, regardless of the type of vehicle in which you're driving in. And that needs to be accounted for. And the reality is going to be is, let's make this a modern form of fund collecting, because the administrative cost is there. You're not going to beat a 1% administrative cost that goes along with this. We can talk about as many different plans out there as you want, but when you have a 1% administrative cost, that just means your dollar is going the furthest when you pay at the pump and pay into the Highway Trust Fund. And it makes, in this type of environment, the most basic form of sense in terms of collecting dollars and using it to rebuild our infrastructure.
That is a great position. I won't say argument, but a great position to take on terms of the efficacy of collecting that tax. it's 99.
It's the best return.
Something.
It is the best
yeah.
return, right, Dave? I mean, there's no better return on your money.
Ever.
Dave,
But that argument has been used in the past. I'm going to throw 20 years ago, 25 years ago, David. But you remember the efficacy. I'll use the word again. The efficacy of using the at the pump system to pay our taxes. It's the cheapest on the planet. It's the cheapest in history. It didn't work that time. And you said something interesting, gallons-based user fees. By changing the name, maybe we can change the perception. It's not that's a paraphrase of what you said. Boy, this whole thing about what you call something has become sort of like
everything.
A conundrum.
It's
sense.
Everything. You almost got to figure out what you want to call something if you want people to buy it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's about marketing, right?
Correct, and that's the world in which we live in. If you call it a tax, people will feel like they're being penalized. There's no doubt about it. And it's not a tax. This is a user fee based upon the miles you're putting on your vehicle as well as the fuel you're putting in that same vehicle to travel those miles. And the reality is going to be is when you look at an increase from 1993 to 2025, it's a 117% increase. But people are going to say, why am I paying more? You're already paying it. You're paying it in the detention time that the trucking industry faces on a daily basis. You're paying it on running over a pothole and buying a new tire because tires aren't as cheap as they once were. So you're paying all of these things for traveling on a less than first-class infrastructure.
Yeah, and I wanted to also say something else, too, as well, is that if people don't realize this, it actually helps the price at the pump. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, you actually know more about this than I do, but the idea of actually putting those taxes on actually stabilizes the price because just like any other tax, when you remove the tax, the people who are in charge of deciding what the price is at the pump go, we can raise our prices now, that they don't drop their prices when you remove a tax or lower the tax. They increase the price. That there's a certain level at which taxing this actually can stabilize the price at the pump and allow people to make plans down the road for how they're going to budget themselves as a trucker on the highway or as a company that has a large fleet of trucks. Did I get that right? You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it certainly plays into it. There's no doubt about it. And you have to remember that states have been putting these fuel taxes and fuel tax increases. I think 34 states within the last 10 years have increased their state-regulated fuel tax or, again, gallons-based user fee that we are paying at the pump. And they've been doing so with very little fanfare and very successful at doing that because everybody recognizes there needs to be money to spend on roads and bridges because that, in the essence, is what we use on a daily basis. Yes, designed for the Defense Department to move for national defense, but at the same point, we've grown as a nation to a spot where we are now, and certainly the Amazon marketplace has taken over for the very need in which we need to develop this.
I had an idea, by the way, and I wonder, and the kind of out-the-box thinking to kind of remind people what's happening here. I wonder if it'd be interesting to, basically put up on every single gas pump across the country, every single diesel pump, a sign that says, you're paying for the highways right now. I mean, it's like almost this constant reminder that when you put that pump into that gas tank, you're basically, people need to begin to make the connection that the moment I start pumping that gasoline, pumping that diesel, they immediately know, oh wait, I'm removing a pothole. And is there any approach that you think really is there any sort of public awareness program that you guys are engaged in or anybody else is engaged in to really explain this to consumers out there?
And again, this is one of those things, the simplest things, right? And I think that would go a long way. And we have not gone down that avenue yet. And this is just the very first kick of the can that we've started this because it's reauthorization season now in D.C. when you start talking talk about the next highway reauthorization bill that goes on with T&I. But yes, certainly a public awareness campaign of a sign at every pump says every gallon you put in there goes towards some of the highway trust fund. Every amount of dollars you're paying goes to rebuilding those roads and bridges that you literally traveled on to get here. So I think that's a fantastic idea.
By the way, Dave, we have this new format is crazy, and we've been dying to get you on since we started it. I think you're like our 95th, 96th guest we've had in like 3 weeks now. We got to shuffle off this radio coil. We got 2 more guests to get to in this half hour. But, brother, it is good to hear your voice. We'll get a chance. We'll run into you someplace along the line. I know we will. But is there anything else you want to add before you shuffle off this radio coil with us?
I just want to say congratulations on the move. Thanks for having me on, and I'm always happy to hear from you all.
Dave Heller.
Dave Heller, of course, a regular contributor on the old platform, and now, once again, he has returned Senior Vice President of Safety and Government Affairs for the Truckload Carriers Association, truckload.org.
Just one real quick thing. I mentioned it earlier, Dave, but the idea of rescinding that excise tax from World War I, the answer to the question, well, where are you going to get the money? The answer is here, right?